This topic has definitely been prevalent recently amongst our conversations. Um, it's definitely needed because entrepreneurs don't really know how to close. And just because you state all the facts doesn't mean somebody trusts you and they're actually going to sign up with your service or your product. And they have to have the understanding of how to draw in the sale and how to actually close in the sale without having to feel like a sale.
Yeah.
Welcome to Entrepreneurhood, where we break entrepreneurship down into three simple pillars: business, lifestyle, and motivation. Our goal is to use our personal experiences as industry leaders to guide and inspire young entrepreneurs to see the lesson in every challenge. Because we understand that companies don't succeed, people do. Now, welcome the leaders of Entrepreneurhood, Lakim and KB.
Welcome to the neighborhood. You got your boy Lay Kim in the building, and I got my brother KB in the building with me. We on episode 55, and we decided to call this one "You Talking Too Much," right? And KB and I, we was just brainstorming, and we was really analyzing this topic, and we realized when it comes to sales and when it comes to presenting things, people do more talking than they do asking. Right. So KB's going to let y'all know why we decided to name this topic and also why we decided to talk about this. So KB, let them know.
This topic has definitely been prevalent recently amongst our conversations. It's definitely needed because entrepreneurs don't really know how to close. And just because you state all the facts doesn't mean somebody trusts you and they're actually going to sign up with your service or your product. And they have to have the understanding of how to draw in the sale and how to actually close in the sale without having to feel like a sale.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people, they think because once they say the price, people immediately going to say yes.
Yeah. And one quote that I found I live by, Marco Russell, is when price is present, when value is present, price doesn't matter.
Wow.
And when you stage it right at a point where the person's like, you know what, whatever I got to do, I need this. And you have to be that for your client. If they see you as the problem solver where you can change their life, then they're going to find the money.
Yeah. And that's so true. And I feel, the one thing that a lot of people, they struggle with when they're going into a sales call is, again, they don't know what structure to start with, and they don't know how to have a guided conversation. A lot of people, when they're, learning sales and they're trying to figure things out, they're like, I don't want the conversation to be scripted. I want it to be natural and whatever, whatever. But when you're brand new, right, you got to have a structure and practice that structure until it becomes second nature. Once it's second nature, then you don't need the script in front of you. But in the beginning, there's no shame in that.
Yeah, I think you definitely need a guide because you got to make sure you're getting the right information from your client to a point, once they're selling you why they need your help, then that's how you seal the deal. But you have to learn how to do that first because you could be talking too much and you're really supposed to diagnose the client in the process. So, you want to diagnose them and see if they fit to work with you. So every lead or every enrollment call is not going to be a client that's going to be fit for you. And you got to be okay with that. But if you ask qualifying questions, you'll figure it out even faster. You don't have to be wasting an hour on the phone with somebody that's not it.
It's not qualified. And I feel like that's why, we decided to do this episode again is I actually want to, the last, I think 2 episodes ago, we spoke about these selling points and the structure that someone needs to have a guided conversation so you could close more deals. So what we're actually going to spend a good amount of time on this call is walking through the different steps that an entrepreneur needs to close deals and to stop talking too much, but ask the right questions. So here's what I want to do, bro. I want to walk through the different stages, right? Because we spent a little bit of time on this on the last call, but I think, let's see, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's really between 6 and 7 steps in having a guided conversation to make sure that you are not talking too much. Right. And we said some of these things before, but it never hurts to reiterate a point 2 times. So for any entrepreneur that is in the process of selling something that may be high ticket or that requires a little bit more explanation, right? There's going to be 7 steps that KB and I are going to be talking about. We're going to be sharing our experiences in the process, some things that work for us and some things that haven't. And I really hope that you could take some notes and really take these tactical steps, implement them into your business, customize it to however, you see best fit. So the first step to the conversation, as you are learning to build a rapport with someone, is what I mentioned before. It's the introduction, right? So when you are establishing someone for the first time, KB and I, and KB actually implemented this, but I would highly recommend you to do a video call, right? You could do a phone call, but video is way more effective. KB, when he started, he wasn't even doing a phone call. What were you doing?
I was texting, man. Sending emojis. And that's how I close them. But I don't recommend that.
I was just going to say that, please, that's not something we recommend, right? So let's talk about the introduction. So the introduction, the first thing you want to do when you're meeting someone for the first time, KB, is we said, number one, establish rapport with the client. And then the second part to that is set the intention and establish the authority that you have on this call, right? So a big thing that you want to do is you got to let your client know, is the call a 15-minute consultation? Is it a 30-minute consultation? Is it an hour consultation? Whatever that time period is, establish that and make sure the client is good for the entire call. Because if you try to rush a call and they're rushing you, and then it forces you to jump to the price before you're ready to share that, it won't be effective. What are your thoughts, KB?
No, that's definitely a great point. And there's been times where, it's been like a 30-minute window, but I know it's a 45-minute, consultation. And they were like, yeah, I'm actually about to go back into work. Can we just, pick up on this, so you could just send me the information over? And those never close those people. So, and to take it a step even further, what I like to do now is have a pre-qual set of questions before we get on the call. So whatever is your booking system, you have the pre-qual, so you go based off of that. So I have one window open for Zoom and one window of the questions to see what they answered. So when it comes down to funding, it's like, all right, do you have an LLC? What's your credit score like? So I already know pre-qualifying this person is, all right, you got a 550, you got to get credit repair. You can't get funded. So I could do an easy text like, listen, here's the repair options that you can do, but your profile is not ready for funding right now. It makes no sense to me to waste my time with that person, but I can still help them. But I'm just not getting on the phone with them.
Yeah. And I feel like that is super important, because by you figuring out those pre-qualification questions, it'll allow you not to waste your time hopping, because I'm telling people to get on a video call, right? A video call requires more preparation. You got to make sure you got good lighting, you're wearing something that looks presentable, you don't look crazy. You don't want to waste your time, get all prepped up, and then the person is not even a good fit before you even start.
Facts.
So I think that's something that you definitely want to keep in mind. Make sure that client is qualified or has the metrics that you're looking for before you even hop on a video call. So there has to be some type of booking thing. But the next point that I really want to emphasize on is you want to address the 2 common objections that 95% of people are going to have when it comes to purchasing anything, right? Number one, they're going to say, I need to think about it. And then number 2, they're going to say, I need to talk with my significant other, my business partner, whoever else is involved in the decision-making process. So you have to address those 2 points right from the rip in the introduction part. After you introduce yourself, you build a little bit of rapport. Now let's address those 2 common objections. I need to think about it, and I need to talk to somebody else before I make a decision. Now, there's 2 ways that I tell people on how to address these objections, right? So I need to think about it. Here's the best way that I tell every client to address this. So, and this is word for word what I say. So now, before we dive in, I want to let you know that the most successful clients that I've worked with, they have 2 common traits, right? They're extremely decisive, and they're committed to their goals. So let's set a goal that by the end of this call, I want both of us to decide if we're 100% going to work with each other or we're 100% not. I'm good with either answer. The one thing that I want to avoid that we finish this call with is I want to avoid us finishing this call with, I need to think about it, because most of the time that's just a nice way of saying no. And I put in parentheses, say that with a smile on your face. Because if you say that statement and you look like you mean mugging the client, it could seem like it's a very confrontational point in the conversation, but you want to just let them know, is that something that we could agree to? And you say that with a smile on your face. If you do that, that immediately eliminates that objection, and it reduces the chances of you hearing that at the end of the sales call.
I got a question, man. Do you think that will work in dating?
It just might. It just might. And I think the people respect that. Like, I feel like a girl will respect that too. It's like, yo, before we go on this date, I just want to know at the end of this date, could we agree that if it goes well, I go to home base or not? I just need to know. And bro, you'll be shocked. I don't know if I would recommend. I'm a business coach. I'm a business coach. Let me put that disclaimer out there. I'm not a relationship coach or a life coach. I'm a business coach. But KB, this is your lane. Like you're a smooth dude with your words. Would you recommend somebody to do that with dating?
You got to build the value. Nah, but it's very understandable when people are clear though. When you have clear intentions and you're upfront about it in a pleasant way, of course, people respect that because they know, all right, I can't really waste this person's time.
Yeah, because they know what you want and you know what, you trying to be very clear about what they want. So I feel like it could work, right? And the second objection that I mentioned again is I need to talk with my partner, right? You're going to hear that a lot when it comes to asking someone to make a big purchase or to commit to something for a certain amount of time. So the best way to address that objection is something similar like this. So you'd be like, all right, so Caleb, is there anybody else like a business partner or a significant other that helps you make financial decisions, or is it just you? When you say it like that, right, it doesn't seem like you're degrading them, and all you're just trying to really uncover is when I ask for the sale, I don't want to hear, I need to talk to someone, I need to talk to my accountant or whatever the case may be. So like, let's address that right now. So what are your thoughts on that, KB?
Yeah, it's very important to, because I've been through that with funding, especially when people are partners on LLCs, where one partner might have a 750 credit score and the other one might have a 550. And that plays a role because when it goes down to funding, they might require both signatures. So it's like, all right, do you have a business partner or are you in this business by yourself? That's one of the first things I ask.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to have to repeat the call like, oh, well, I got to get back to you. I'm going to speak to my partner. Nah, we're not doing that. Call them right now.
Yeah. And I said, one thing I also put is it's important that you have both partners or business partners, significant others on that one call, because like to, piggyback off of what KB said, you don't want to have to repeat yourself multiple times. So if they say, yes, I do have a business partner and that business partner or significant other isn't available, then as uncomfortable as this may seem, you need to reschedule that call. What are your thoughts? Do you feel like is that something you would do, KB?
Yeah. Or you want to, if you in that pre-qualification questions, you ask them, do they have a business partner?
Nice.
That's another way to hack it too. So when they answer subconsciously, like, all right, they're gonna put yes or no. And then as you go over it, you realize like, oh, I see you have a business partner. Are they available for the call at the same time? So you kind of, void it even early on, that early objection.
Bro, and that's actually genius. I think that's actually even smarter, because if they say yes, and maybe a follow-up question you'll have on that questionnaire is, will that business partner be able to be available for the call? And then if they say yes or no, then if you should have the call. So I think that's actually a really smart move. Now, stage 2, right? Stage 2 with closing deals and making sure that, you're not talking too much. And this is the biggest thing, KB, is stage 2 is set the doctor frame and diagnose the problem. This is where 90% of entrepreneurs go wrong when it comes to presenting something and trying to close a deal. And this is why we made the episode, You're Talking Too Much, because what setting the doctor frame really means is you need to get your client to realize that they have a massive pain, and you need to dig into the pain and get them to realize that they want to get out of pain, right? So you need to get to the root problem and their motivation of why they need your help, right? So you got to get good at identifying the pains and the problems. And I feel like, KB, this is where most people go wrong. They instead of identifying that, they jump to the presentation and start telling them facts and figures without knowing if it's a good fit.
Yeah, this is the part where people mess up, where they put, if you need surgery, they put a Band-Aid where you need surgery.
Yep.
And what I mean by that is, like, for example, if somebody wants to lose 10 or 15 pounds, I used to say, oh yeah, that's no problem. We could definitely do that. No, that's a big problem.
Yeah.
That's a big problem. How long have you been, carrying this weight? How do you feel about this extra 20 pounds? How do you feel? Are you breathing okay? Does it struggle to go up the steps? Do you take pictures? Do you have low confidence? Like, I'm really digging into the pain because I need to let you know that I'm your answer.
Yo, wow, bro. And there's two things that I always say. When someone tells you something and you realize that they can tell you more, there's these two follow-up questions that will literally make them tell you everything that they're truly concerned about, right? So one of them is, what do you mean by that? Right? They'll ask you, you ask a question, they say something, right? And then the follow-up question is, what do you mean by that? Right? Because you want them to be crystal clear on what they're really saying, and you want them to say it, because then if they say it, then it'll be easier for you to pinpoint the pain problem. And then the second thing is, why is that so important to you?
Yeah.
Right? So if somebody told you, KB, yo, I'm trying to lose 15 pounds, all right, but why is that so important to you? That whatever they say from there, that's the real reason.
Yeah, and that's how I used to drill them in the text, like, but why? Why do you want to lose the weight? You've been this way for 6 years. You might as well keep it. Like, I'm like, no, I'm uncomfortable. What's uncomfortable about it? And then as they keep revealing it to you, it helps you diagnose them and see exactly where they fit in your program. I think that's the hardest part for people to understand, that you have to listen more. Like, you're not answering questions in the beginning. You're just straight asking questions. So if you go to the doctor and you got a tummy ache, he's gonna ask you about your family history, if you have any surgeries, what kind of medicine you take, all these questions. And you're like, yo, my stomach, I just need to stop hurting. Just for him to give you a prescription, like, all right, go to CVS after this.
Yep. But you feel heard. You felt heard, like, oh, okay. And he already knew what he was going to do to diagnose the problem from the jump, like we all do, right? When we hop on our consultations, we know what the end result is, but we just want the client to feel heard.
Yeah. And in that moment, you feel better because it's not worse than what you thought it was. And like, if I do this, if I just get the CVS, I'll be good. I'll be good in 7 days of taking these antibiotics.
Bro, that's so freaking smart. So what about for you, KB, before I go on to the next point, what about when it comes to funding, right? What would you say are some of the ways or some of the questions you ask to, like, really dig deep and ask them, like, why is that so important to you and stuff like that?
So when it comes to funding, first I ask them, do they have a plan? And like, oh yeah, I do have a plan. I want to do this. I want to get funding. I need about 100K. Okay, what do you plan to do with 100K? Well, I need marketing. I need to do advertising to get more leads. What system are you using? How are you going to increase the revenue? And if you don't get this funding, or how long you've been looking for funding, and I want to let them know if they applied already. Because if you applied already and you failed, that's the perfect client for me. Because you already understand what it takes to invest in yourself and take risks. You just did it the wrong way.
Yep.
Luckily, I got the right way to go about it. So those are the qualifying questions I'm asking on the phone. And I want to make sure you have a plan, because when it comes down to success fee, when you pay me on the back end, it's not going to be later on like, damn, I got to pay you too. It's already calculated in the cost.
Yep.
So I clear that up. So The sale is easy. It's just me sharing. All right. So the perfect answer for me when I'm talking to clients is like, all right, so where you come in and what I got to do to, for your benefit? Because I give them so much value during the call. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, you just got to pay me at the end.
And I feel like that's one of the advantages I love about your service, bro. It's like, yo, you only pay me at the end once I get you the results. I feel like that the way that funding is structured, it's a beautiful method, bro.
I literally had a call today, and what I did this time too, I started making clear intentions because of the last episode. I'm like, I forgot even setting the bar of what this is for. So I let them know, like, listen, I want to see if we work good together and if you're actually eligible. And as he's telling me, like, yeah, I don't have no business credit. I had my business for 7, 8 years. So for me, that's a red flag. I mean, it's a green flag, actually. So you had a business for that long and don't establish any business credit. That means you're operating out of cash, your cash account, or your personal credit. Sure enough, as we looked at the profile, his personal credit was using 50,000 out of 90,000.
Wow.
So when the ratio is that high, you can't get funding on the business side because they qualify your personal. So he told me about the problems that I dealt with funding company before, and then don't let problems skip over. And it didn't work out. I'm like, well, tell me more about that. So how you say, your question, I'm like, yo, tell me more about it. Well, it didn't work out. He didn't be clear up front. So I'm like, oh, this is perfect because I'm gonna be clear and upfront.
Yep.
Like,
It's telling you their concerns and you're just addressing it right there.
So I still didn't, say anything about it. And he was like, yeah, the guy, he just wasn't upfront with me about how to go about it. And he was just charging me processing fees. Meanwhile, I know I don't charge processing fees. I'm like, really? So I'm like, he just charging the front and the back end. He's like, yeah. I'm like, damn, that's messed up.
Poking at the pain, bro. Poking at the pain.
And I'm just, guiding him along. So you got to listen more if you want to be a great in sales.
Yeah, if you want to be a good closer, the best closers, they listen more than they speak. And again, that's a pivotal part of sales. So there's also two, very intentional questions that I think anyone running a business should ask. And the first question is, why is this something that you can't procrastinate on anymore? Right? It's a simple question, but it digs deep where it's really going to make them think like, well, I can't procrastinate on this because of blank, right? And whatever that reason is, that's going to help you close that deal more effectively. That's number one. And then number two is, what have you tried in the past? I love that question. And the reason why is because I only want to work with people that has tried something prior to meeting me, right? It is not advantageous to try to work with someone that has not tried to fix their problem on their own. What are your thoughts?
Advantageous. I'm taking back. I gotta write that word.
I'm coming crazy on this episode, bro. Like, I'm really trying my best to bring some game. But yeah, not for real.
Yeah, and it goes back to, people that have been applying when it comes to funding. Like, that means you have been actively trying and you've been missing. So it's kind of those things back to relationships. You want a person that like, no, I tried to work it out. I tried to, go to counseling. I tried to do these things, but it wasn't working. And it shows the effort of what they're willing and knowing like, yo, those triggers are not my triggers. So we can actually make something happen. And I think when you have your client or your customer answer those questions, and also don't forget while we listen, we're taking notes as well.
Yep. The whole time.
So you want to take notes and jot down certain pain points so you can always retract back to that. But it's important to ask those questions because now you have a clear understanding of why they're talking to you. Because what I usually do, ask people like, yo, what made you want to book a call today?
Yep.
Like, what in this moment, defining moment in your life was like, yo, I have to, work on getting my business funded. Like, what will happen if you don't?
Yeah, I like that.
So if you don't get funded in the next couple months, what's gonna happen? I might lose my business because I have this crazy overhead. Really? Okay. And we just go to the next question. And as you drawing it out, then you start this line up like, all right, I got him. And I can actually help them too. Like
yeah. Because they're really expressing all of their concerns. And that's why sales, like we keep saying, it's more asking, less talking, right? So the next point of the sales conversation that I really want someone to focus on is reiterate, right? Reiterate what they just told you. So what KB just said was literally the next part of the sales script. So as you're asking these Dr. Frame questions and they're telling you all of their concerns, your goal when you're taking notes is to write down the big three. And what do I mean by the big three? They're the three biggest problems that they express to you, and then you want to reiterate it back to them, right? So for example, if I'm doing, my coaching, my accountability coaching, and they'll say, like, Kim, I feel like I need an accountability coach because number one, my follow through is very weak and I never really get things done. Number two, I don't know how to set goals. Like, I feel like setting goals is a weak thing that, I don't have confidence in. And then number three, I don't have a landing page. I really want a landing page, and I need someone that can help me structure a landing page and build it out, right? So if they told me those three things, what I'm doing is I'm writing everything down, and then I'll say, all right, cool. So KB, let me just, I feel like I understood where, where you're at, and let me just kind of make sure that, I wrote down the most important things on what you're struggling. And I want to make sure I heard this right. So number one, KB, you just told me that one of your biggest things that you're struggling with is setting goals. You feel like you're struggling with your follow through. And then number three, you're struggling with creating a landing page that actually work. Does that sound right? And bro, when you say something like that, all that does is they be like, yo, you heard me, you're listening. And then, bro, that makes the transition super smooth.
Yeah, and it also puts them like, damn, I got problems.
Right.
And then, if you want to drill a little bit more, it's like, is there anything else besides this that I know about? And then they started like, well, yeah, so I do have this collection, this late payment.
Yep. And then all you do is just write it down based on that, because now you're going to position that when you get to the close, right? So I think the next step, KB, after that is stage three. So now we're finally made it to stage three. We did our introduction. We did the Dr. Frame, digging at the pain points. Now stage three is establishing what heaven looks like for the client. And all KB and I mean is their dream outcome, right? So the next thing that I'll have that I'll do with a client is I'll say, let's pretend we're having this conversation 1 year from today, or whatever the time frame may be for your offer. It could be 1 year, it could be 30 days, it could be 90 days, it could be 60 days, right? But you insert that part and you'll say, let's pretend we're having this conversation 90 days from today. And let's say you have received $100,000 in business funding. You got a solid business plan and your business is making $10,000 a month. How would that make you feel?
That'd be amazing. That would change my life. I get to take my kids out. I get to go on vacation. Like, I actually get some sleep at night. Something that's
they're gonna be cheesing, bro. They're gonna feel like a kid in a candy store, and they just, they're envisioning that. And I think that's so important when you're making that client envision how you're going to solve their solution.
Yeah, I love that part, and I gotta stress that part a little bit more on my calls to really paint the picture for them, and not saying like I could get it done. So that's something I'm gonna take from this episode and stretch even more of what does it feel like to to have this access to capital, like and then when you do with the capital, what is that going to do for you in your regular daily life? So they'll get excited at talking about those things because it seems so far-fetched, but it's something that they dream about. And then as you present your offer, they will start to see themselves within your story.
Bro, 100%, right? Like painting that vision that like everything is perfect because of your service, that gets them to share that side of the equation. And then the last thing, or the next stage, I would say, is stage four. Stage four is called bridge the gap, right? So bridge the gap, why is that important? Is you want to, again, remind them. So it's so funny, you're taking them on a roller coaster, right? You want to remind them when you're bridging the gap, why not keep trying to figure things out on your own? Why is getting blank so important to you? When you bridge the gap, these are going to be the common responses. They're going to say, well, I don't know how to get funding on my own. I don't know how to, set the right goals on my own. I've already wasted years or months trying to figure this out. Or they'll say, I want to work with someone that's done it before. So bridging the gap is really making sure a client sees that they need you.
Yeah, definitely. And the answer got to be leading towards you. Another thing I do too, what I did with mentorship, I didn't find a way for funding, but a good qualifying question is like after they showed them heaven, it's like, all right, but what do you think is going to take the change in you for you to achieve it?
Damn.
So it's like, all right, what has to happen personally or business-wise for you to achieve that goal? And it'll be a dramatic pause. Don't say anything.
Yep.
If you talk too much, you lose. And allow them to think, to be like, you know what? I do need to be more disciplined. I do need to, read more. I do need to, save my money a certain way. I need to, cut back on my spending. And then as you point that out, they realize like, damn, I need your help to do these things. And you make it very clear about it's on you. Like it's a partnership, but it's really on you to be different because you're really going to change their life.
Yeah. And I feel like that's so cool what you just said, bro. It's like when you ask a deep question or a thought-provoking question, shut up after you ask that question, because what happens is the first person to talk after a deep thought-provoking question is asked, the first person to talk loses, right? So if you ask a thought-provoking question, then it's like, yo, don't feel like that silence is awkward. It's necessary, because then that means they're really going to give you a real answer.
Yeah. And then you get to see what kind of person they are too, as far as like even a little bit under pressure. Because some people are like, well, I just need the funding. And it's like, nah, you don't understand what else you're missing here. Because if that's the case, you would have had it already.
Facts. And I feel like I like that too, right? And that brings me to stage 5. So KB and I, we spoke about this on a few episodes ago, but stage 5 is qualify. And I put in parentheses, have them sell themselves to you, right? You need to let them know that your service, your offer is not for everybody. And you are very selective on who you want to work with. So the best way that I word this, word for word, is I'll say, so fully transparent, KB, I only let, people with this criteria into my service or, my program. And, really, I'm only interested in working with people who are committed to achieving the targets. So what would you say is your commitment level to solving this problem and growing your business? Right. And I want them to tell me what their commitment level is and how serious they are to solving their problem if I present the answer to them. Because by me having them express that to me, then that's having them sell themselves, saying, no, like, I'm committed. Like, I want to get a solution and I'll do whatever it takes to get there. Once they start saying those things, then I already know I'm about to close this deal.
No, that's a big fact. And from my end, at this point, I'm looking at their credit report. I'm diagnosing what they need already. And I'm like, well, this is not just about your credit score. This is not about you having a 700. I don't fund people just because they have a great score. I like to know that you have a plan, because I work from a referral-based business. So your success is my success. And if you don't win, then I don't win. You won't be able to tell your story to someone else. Yeah. Now, if you get this X amount of money, if I help you get to 200K, what do you plan to do with it? And now they really pitching their story together for me, be like, you know what? I'm like, all right, cool. And then when it gets to the closing part, at this point, I'm like, well, you have any other questions for me? And then like, well, how do I pay you? I'm glad you asked.
Beautiful, bro. That's how you know you did a nice setup, if they end with a question like that.
Yeah, because they're like, so what do you get out of it? Because I'm giving them so much during it. And I'm like, well, this is why I make sure you have a plan, because I get a percentage on the back end. We don't charge any process fees or upstart fees. When you win, we win.
Bro, and that's the one thing that I really respect about how you operate and how you conduct business, is that you're very thorough. You're thorough with your demands from what you need from a client. And I recommended one of my coaching clients to KB, and she had like a consultation call with him. And then she came back and she was nervous. She was like, man, Caleb asked me so many questions. And like, Kim, we need to prepare answers, because I have a follow-up call with Caleb and I want to make sure that I answer them right. And I'm like, you answer them truthfully. Like, he wants to help you, but she was really nervous because, when people approach you, they got to come correctly. They can't say, Caleb, I need you to help me get X, Y, and Z, but they don't have a clear plan. And I respect that, because your business is thorough.
Yeah, and I think honesty and integrity is the pillars that I have based my business upon, because like I said, the capital in the wrong hands, and I explain to clients, capital in the wrong hands can be bad. So debt is not for dummies. Meaning, if you don't know how to use it, then it's not going to be beneficial to you. So you taking other people's money, and you're going to be able to turn the one into the two. So if you could turn one into the two, then you're able to do funding. But if you I just need to get funding to pay my bills or to cover my expenses, then you're not benefit fully. So there's no make a sense for us going forward if you don't know what you're going to do, even if your credit score is 800. And I'd rather say no to an 800 credit score than to say yes. And for you, now your credit dropped and now you didn't make no money. Now you're really going to blame me.
Bro. And again, that's the true value of integrity. And I think that's what's needed, man. More people need to be like UKB and not saying yes to all money, because, as entrepreneurs, we realize all money is not good money.
Yeah, and people respect that. And I've been on calls where like, I really respect that you care about the client. I'm like, yes. And it's not it's like a foreign thing now to have integrity. So, that's one of my strengths when it comes to closing.
Yeah, bro. And it makes sense. It makes sense why, KB closes a lot of his consultations. So the one other thing that I want to emphasize on is, throughout the sales call, you want to try to get as many little yeses through the process as possible before you get to the close. And I call this getting the customer or a client on the yes train, right? So what is the yes train? Get them to say yes to different things before you ask for the sale. So as I'm in stage 5, right, having them qualify themselves, they explain everything to me, KB, they told me everything. So I'm like, all right, cool. So I feel like you have the right characteristics and the qualities of what I'm looking for. So with that being said, if I could provide you with all of the steps to blank, and that's where you insert the solutions that you're going to give them. And then the follow-up question is that something you would take action on today?
Damn.
Powerful question, right? And you ask that and you say, yo, if I could provide you all the steps to get you $100,000 in business funding, make sure your LLC is formed the right way, and make sure that you have a right business structure to actually make money. If I provide you all of those steps and give you the capital, is that something you will be willing to take action on today?
I guess.
Yeah. Right. So, and you don't move forward until you hear that yes. So I feel like getting clients on the yes train is an important part of closing more deals.
Yeah, I'm glad you pointed it out too, bro, because that's something I do naturally. But when you point it out and you just get the flow of yeses, it's like, yeah, yes, 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 yes. And the next thing you know, it's like, where do I sign?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, how soon you want to get started? And they'd be like, yesterday. I'm like, all right. But and then I don't say nothing else. And then they're like, well, so what I gotta do? And I'm like, all right, now I gotta. Then I send them the link and I'm like, well, this is what you're gonna do to fill out going forward. Da da da. And I think listening, like, stop talking so much. Like, the dramatic pauses are needed because someone who's in pain, they have to get vulnerable on a call with you. So if you don't get vulnerable with them, so even if you don't close, you have the best call of your life. You point at that pain for the follow-up. Like, so are you still gonna need that funding because your overhead, for the next couple months, is that something you're looking for? And then like, damn, I actually do, and I'm ready to make the move. Because you're dealing with emotions at that point. So if you keep jabbing at them, and then you hit them with the knockout, it's like, all right, yo, this is they're in full belief and full confidence that you can help and serve them and solve their problem.
Now you are the solution. And I feel like, that's why each step of the sales process is so important, because you're really, you know, uncovering the problem, and then you're letting the client know every time you uncover the problem that they're in need of help, and you are their solution. You are the answer. So that brings me to the next stage, KB, and I guess this is the second to last stage, but stage 6 is present the offer, right?
Yeah.
Now, so many people, again, they try to present the offer in the beginning before uncovering any problems. But now, since we're at stage 6, and it's intentionally at this stage for a reason, is they've already told me their problems. They told me why it's important to them. They told me what heaven looks like. We bridged the gap. I made them sell themselves to me. So now I am only going to be providing the solutions to the pain points that they expressed to me. I'm not talking about anything else that isn't relevant to those pain. And that's where most people lose the sale. They lose the sale because they have this idea that their main selling points is what that client needs. And it's like, no, bro, it's not. The main selling points is what they told you in the pain.
And that's where, when I ask them, you have any more questions before I tell you to play? And then be like, nope. I'm like, all right, cool. So this is what we could do. You got lower utilization. You have to pay this card, pay that card. Let's look at it. The next 30 days, this is going to be updated. Your score is going to go up to 760, and then we get ready to go for funding. And it'll take 2 to 4 weeks. And then it's like, damn, now you're the expert. And now you listen to them, you heard them, you got close with them, they got vulnerable with you. And then it's like you go from stranger to best friend to be like, yo, he on the same team as me. He understands exactly what I'm going through. And, be natural with your personality too. Like whatever script you have, you can make it your words. So I probably don't use advantageous every day. But you want to make it you, and you want to resonate with your client as of, yo, we're on the same team and I'm gonna help you get there. Instead of making it seem like, even when it's a certain thing, if you meet in person, don't sit across from them, sit on the side of them.
Yep.
Those little cues make a big difference because they don't feel like you're selling them, feel like you're actually just helping them.
Bro, and it's so funny that, you gave them a in-person play right there. So one thing when I was teaching sales to my sales team and we would approach customers, I would always say, never go, directly in front of a client where it's shoulder to shoulder, because that's a very confrontational standpoint. But what I would explain to my team is you go, side to side, because that's more open, right? It's more of an open body language. And more times than not, when I was teaching sales, when we got to the presentation, we would then be showing them something. So you don't want to show someone something sitting right in front of them. You want to go to the side, and in that way you could really give them the visual that they need to that confirmation.
And what I usually do before I even say the actual price or percentage, I crack a joke with them and give them a testimonial real quick. So, this way they see that I'm a human, I'm a person. So when you resonate with somebody through a testimonial is just a story that you have with your previous clients. And it could be 2 ways. It could be one that did not work out, or it could be one that did really great. And this way they will understand like, oh, he has experienced, he has seen this before. This is nothing new. And I think that is something that people forget about, is like, nah, I actually had a client like this before and it didn't work out because they didn't listen. And they're like, nah, I'm gonna listen. I need this done. I'm like, all right, cool. Just check it.
And I feel like that's so true too, bro, because just giving more testimonials again before you get to the price is beautiful, right? So the last thing is when you present the investment, right? The investment of the service, of your program, of whatever the case may be. This is a sales hack, and it's all about, again, making someone feel like they're getting a good deal, right? So one thing that I do is, more times than not, I'll increase the price by 50%, in order to give them what I call an action taker discount, right? So if a course let's say a course or my program costs $2,000, right? I would increase it to 4,000, and I would say what I'm willing to do for you if you seem like an action taker, right? So I want to give you an action taker discount. So instead of the course or my service being 4,000, I have an action taker discount where I then cut it in half and say it would only be 2,000, because I could tell that the things that you mentioned to me earlier are very important, and you seem like a person that want to get to the solution. So I'll be willing to give you it at this price point. And I knew that that was the price point I was going to give it to them from the beginning. But again, I just want them to feel like they're getting a steal.
Yeah, you got to build that value of, if you buy right now, you get, buy one, get one free. But yeah, and I think you want to be also genuine with that. Don't say, well, usually I charge 15,000, but I give it to you for 5. Like, tap, bro. Like,
right.
That means you give it to me for 3 then.
And that's so true, because if you do that last part that I just mentioned wrong, it could really rub someone the wrong way. Like, let me put a disclaimer on that. If you're not great at increasing something and then making someone feel good about it, probably avoid that last advice that I just gave you. I think for the right person, and if you're a good talker, right, you could present that and make someone feel good about it. But if you're an introvert, don't use that. Don't use that play. That won't work.
And it depends on your offer being reasonable with it. So what I do too, like I did today, because I truly have an add-on service where I remove inquiries. I see he had multiple, so I say, you know what? For your inquiries, these are the things that's stopping you. However, it's usually $30 per inquiry, which is true. But I'm like, if you continue to do funding, then I'll just knock it out to you for free. It's like, man, I appreciate that. Yeah, that sounds great. And it's like, I can charge you for that because I do charge for that. But if you move forward with me, this is the value that you get.
More value, bro. That's genius. That's genius, And once you present the offer, once you tell them the cost, one thing I always like to say too is I try to avoid saying cost. I like to position it as investment. So never say cost, always say investment, right? Because when you put the word cost in there, they think that they're spending money. When you say the word investment, they're like, oh, it's an investment into myself. It's an investment into my business. So it's a small changes when it comes to sales that can make a 90% difference on the way someone perceived what you just said.
And even if they say cost, you don't repeat that.
Right.
So, because they was like, so what's it going to cost me? Well, the success fee is, because once you hit success fee, it's like, so that means I'm going to be successful. Like I'm only going to charge you. Well, you're only going to pay for your investment if you are successful. So if you don't get the funding, then I didn't do my job.
And I like that, bro. The success fee. That's a very unique way, and that's a creative way to position it as well. And I guess the very last step too, KB. So once someone, you close them, they say yes. Last thing I want to say to people is never say thank you, right? Always only say congratulations. Because if you say thank you after they say, all right, KB, I want to do business with you, and you're like, whew, thank you, right? It's gonna be like, hold on, what? Like you seem desperate, like you needed me to say yes. So when someone commits to your offer, your service, just always say congratulations, because now it's like they made a good decision, and we're going to go to the final step and actually get you the service that I just explained on this call.
Yeah, definitely. And I usually get them excited at the end of like, y'all, because my term is ready to run the play. So they're like, yo, I'm ready to run the play. I'm ready to do whatever I got to do. So, in that moment, I'm like, yo, they're excited about working with me, which makes me more excited. And the trust is there. And it's like, all right, now I got to play my part at my highest standard to let them know, like, I mean business.
Yeah, bro. So I feel like those are all of the steps that, we had listed. And, we want to kind of stick to what the title is. We're not trying to talk too much because we just wanted to establish all of those points and make sure that people understand as you are, getting in the sales process and trying to close clients. These are things that if you follow this, right, I think it will I know it will significantly increase your closing rate, and people will feel more comfortable with you. They'll trust you. They'll be more vulnerable with you, and you will hear more yeses. So KB, what would you say are like some of your final takeaways on what people need to remember from this episode to make sure that they're not talking too much?
Shut up. Listen, take notes, and really diagnose if they're the client that you feel that should be working with you. And one thing I always say, especially with my brother, I will tell you if I can't help you or I cannot help you. And if I can't, then I can't. Then I'll refer you to somebody who can. And I think being honest with yourself and honest with the client or the lead is the most powerful good thing as a business owner, and just take notes and really listen. And be confident when you speak. Don't, we could probably use assuring words that you can get the job done. You are the answer. So yeah, I like to say that, and don't talk too much. Just listen.
Facts. And my final takeaway on that point is make sure that you ask more questions than you talk. Right. I think the biggest thing, I've been teaching sales, since I was 20 years old. Right. I just turned 30 this year. So I've seen a lot of the do's and I've seen a lot of the don'ts, and every single high percentage closer, they always are great at diagnosing the problems. They're diagnosing the pains. So if you want to get great at sales, if you want to increase your closing rate, get great at asking questions before you start telling stuff. Right? Don't start with the price. Once you say the price and then you try to justify it with the value, the customers then stop listening to you. So always show the value, do more asking than you do talking, and you will see the improvements in your sales and your business.
Oh, we got to do the shout out.
Yeah. Yes. And one thing that, KB and I, we also want to, share with the community is that if you're getting any type of value from this, right, like do us a favor, share this with somebody that you think needs to hear what we just said, because you never know what entrepreneur, what friend that may need to take away from this that could like really benefit their business. Like, what are your thoughts, KB?
Honestly, this feels like a free mastermind. Like, we should have been charging $1,000 for this, this episode right here. And I think it's dope that we can present this value. So if you know somebody who's struggling in sales where they're not getting the clientele they need, or they get the leads, but they can't close them, please share this episode with them.
Entrepreneurhood. Let's get it.
Anyone can start, but only champions finish. Now that you've completed this episode, you're ready to continue your journey by connecting directly with our hosts of Entrepreneurhood. Follow us on Instagram at The Entrepreneurhood to stay updated with the community. For each episode, the first set of listeners to tag us on Instagram and leave a 5-star review will be entered into a drawing to get a free one-on-one coaching session on the topic of entrepreneurship with our hosts. Remember, there is no shame in struggling, because we fail, we grow, and we win. Right here on Entrepreneurhood.